That's not happening. And we want to welcome in now a guy who this has to be a very personal issue for. He's a former governor of New York, the entire state, but he also worked very hard to revitalize parts of New York City that a lot of folks for a long time did not want to go to. And it's an honor to talk to you, Governor Pataki. Thanks for being with us here on Newsmax TV.
Thank you, John. Nice being on with you.
All right. So when you hear de Blasio making these public pleas, and one of the things that has come up is it's too little, too late. But now we know that people are not listening to these pleas. What's your take?
I sadly believe, predictable given thousands of people chanting, "What do we want? Dead cops." What the mayor should do is enforce the law. And if they engage in an illegal protest, arrest them. If they engage in violence, as they did against police before these assassinations, arrest and prosecute them. There's a reason. There are laws in the book in this city, and the mayor is the one who has to make sure they're enforced. And sadly, that was not the case prior to this horrible event.
Well, we've had some debate here on America's Forum earlier today about the techniques that were used by Mayor Giuliani. Whether they worked or not is not really up for debate, though, because we know New York City became a lot safer. Has Mayor Bill de Blasio already done a lot of the work that folks like you and Rudy Giuliani worked so hard to do when they were in office?
I think, sadly, he's created a climate of mistrust, particularly between the police and the city, and most tragically, in minority communities towards the police, and that has got to end. It was under not just Mayor Giuliani, but Mayor Bloomberg and Commissioner Kelly, where the police department in New York did such an incredible job taking New York City from the most dangerous city in America to the safest large city in the country, saving thousands of lives. There is no better trained, more professional force. And sadly, beginning a year or two ago, for political reasons, people began to demonize that great police department, which, by the way, is a majority-minority police force, and doing it for their own political reasons. And tragically, a consequence of that rhetoric attacking these police was that horrible assassination.
Now, of course, this was part of de Blasio's campaign, talking about stopping the stop and frisk techniques that, again, a lot of folks would point to as a reason why New York City was turned out to be a much safer place. But we're also seeing the fact that he may have earned the votes of a lot of those folks, but not the respect.
Well, I'll tell you, John, what I think is that back during the heated Democratic primary, everybody was angling for the support of Al Sharpton. And the more anti-police you could be, the more saying you were going to fire Commissioner Ray Kelly, who did a spectacular job in increasing minorities in the police force and in reducing crime, the better your chances were of getting Sharpton support and winning that primary. And sadly, not just de Blasio, but while this was going on, Eric Holder weighs in and says, yes, the New York Police Department is engaged in illegal activities, and files a lawsuit demanding a federal monitor. This is the best police force in America, the most respected police force in America, the most successful police force in America. And he doesn't want to monitor an investigation into why in Chicago so many dozens and dozens of minority kids and young people are being killed every weekend. But he does in New York, where the police have done such an outstanding job. I think that created a climate where community people listening to their leaders, whether it's the Attorney General or the mayor, began to doubt this police department. And that is tragic, and the tragic consequences have followed.
Well, you brought up a couple of good points there, and I'm glad you mentioned former Police Commissioner Ray Kelly's name, too, because I did not, and he deserves a lot of credit for the safer city that New York has become. And you also talked about Al Sharpton and the courting of Al Sharpton during the Democratic primary for the mayorship of New York City. But do you think that this now maybe could undo Al Sharpton's standing? Because what has happened is just so beyond the pale. And Al Sharpton's, if there's not blood on his hands, his fingerprints, I think, in some ways are on this.
John, you're right. What has happened is beyond the pale. But what I hope happens is that the people of New York rally behind our police department. And not just the people of New York. Mayor de Blasio should apologize for helping create this climate and for demonizing and not having the backs of our police officers. If that happens, then let's look forward. Let's come together. Let's understand we have a
let me tell you what, Governor, we'll come
department.
together. We got to step aside for a commercial break. We'll come together and continue the conversation right after this. And joining us for more of our conversation is former New York Governor George Pataki. Governor Pataki, we heard Bill Bratton here. He is a guy who has a lot of respect, perhaps unlike the current mayor of New York. Is he really maybe the best person, best suited to heal the wounds that have formed over the last few days?
Well, I think he certainly is respected by everyone, and in particular law enforcement. But the person best situated to try to heal the wounds is Mayor de Blasio. And if he goes to the police, first of all, he should meet with the police leaders. He met with the demonstration leaders, but would not meet with the police leaders. He should meet with the police leaders, and he should apologize. Apologize for not having their back when this crisis began, and apologize for having helped create this climate where the best police department, best trained in America, is demonized as being an occupying force. And I think that would go an enormous way towards earning back the respect. It doesn't happen overnight. Respect isn't something where it's a switch you can turn on or off. You have to earn it. And I think the mayor has an opportunity to begin that process.
One more question on this topic before I want to kind of change gears and get into what you're working on currently right now, aside from all this, is we know New York City is maybe the single largest tourist destination, if not in this country, perhaps one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. New York City Police Department has always been on the leading edge of technology and tactics used to combat terrorism in this country, but now they have this in the back of their minds. I got to look out for all kinds of things that could be taking place in the street, but somebody might be walking up behind me to shoot me right now. If you were still the governor, what would you tell the current police commissioner to try and encourage these guys who have a very difficult task in front of them?
Well, I think the commissioner has taken steps. He said they're going to have people jointly patrolling, no more single patrols, and that they should be on alert. I think the NYPD is incredibly professional. And whether they like the mayor or dislike the mayor, they're going to do their jobs, and they're going to do it well. And for all this horrible tragedy, this is still the safest large city in America. This is still one of the safest states in America. And it's going to continue to be that way because we do have that terrific police force. So I think Commissioner Bratton is the right person in the right spot at a very difficult time. And I think Mayor de Blasio has an opportunity, too, to say that he appreciates the dangers and the sacrifices and the professionalism towards every one of our NYPD. But by the way, it would not hurt if President Obama and Attorney General Holder, who were so outspoken on these incidents, finally, after 6 years, could say that they respect our police, understand the challenges they face, understand that on average over 100 a year are killed in the line of duty, and that for all the challenges we face, we have to give thanks and support to our police.
That's a novel idea. New York City Police Department, of course, will face one of its biggest tasks in just over a week when the big ball drops there at Times Square. But, Governor, I got to ask you this while we have a few minutes left. I've seen you on TV, some of these commercials. You're talking about more freedom, less government. I've also seen that on a libertarian political bumper sticker. You're a Republican. Are you switching parties? Any talk about that? And are you thinking about 2016?
You know, I really don't want to talk about politics at this difficult time, but I very much believe in limited government. I believe that, and that's what I tried to do as governor. I reduced the size of the government, and the whole concept of America, in my mind, has always been that the government is the servant of the people, and the people are the masters of the government. Sadly, I believe over the last 6 years, we've seen in Washington the approach that they are the leaders, that they are the masters, and the public is the servant. And whether it's health care or how you can hire or fire somebody, where politicians in Washington are going to dictate major elements of every individual's life. That's not America. That's not the way it should be, and it's not the way it can be.
Well, I hate to follow up because I know you don't want to talk about this, but you know, you kind of led me here. Do you think we've reached a tipping point with government intrusion in this country?
I think we've gone far further with government intrusion than certainly in my lifetime and perhaps in this country's history. But this is still America. You know, I'm still an optimist. The people still have tremendous strength. Out of our diversity, we create and have creativity and initiative and energy that no other country in the world has. So despite the failings of the government, in my view, this is still America, and the people will take back this country.
Well, that's a little bit of optimism, and who can't use a little optimism, especially this time of the year? Former New York Governor George Pataki, and I know you might not want to talk about it, but I just saw a tweet right here from a Twitter handle called George Pataki 2016. The first line, it says, "Run, George, run." And you might not be thinking about it, but some folks are. Governor Pataki, your name is certainly going to be in the conversation. We do want to thank you, though, for being with us, sir. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah.
Yes, Happy New Year as well. Governor George Pataki here with us on America's Forum. More to come here. We're continuing right after this short commercial.